All right. Well, welcome to an episode of the Rest and Recovery Podcast. And with me is Dr. Stephanie Rimka. And Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here, Scott. Very happy to keep talking about rest.
You and me both. I mean, obviously, the podcast is Rest and Recovery. And as we were talking offline, the background is my own burnout and the culture challenge of integrating it into our life. And and looking and understanding what you're doing with your medical practice and then the rest revolution, as you call it, like to dig into that and like, what's your perspective on, why is rest and sleep like so, I guess, hated on?
Yeah.
It's the right term, but.
Yeah, well, because we humans are a beautiful species, full of empathy and naivete. So I think we can be really gullible and can be entrained, hypnotized, brainwashed very easily because we're so empathic and because we want to help people and care for people. So when messages come in that, you can sleep when you're dead, and money is the ultimate, prize to show power, being top of the tribe, the structure is its power. And we put that as money at this point because no one's hunting, like in city culture, that's where we're at. But if you look at primal cultures, they're not working themselves into the ground at all. Nobody is grinding out hunting because you don't ever excessively hunt. You just go get what you need. Here it is. We worked real hard. Everybody enjoyed. Now we're going to laugh and talk and have a good time. And their mental health is off the charts good. There's no such thing as anxiety and depression in these, tribal cultures. They don't even understand what that is. It's just a lot of joy. We've really stripped ourselves of all that and been able to be fooled very quickly that actually you're supposed to be incredibly externally focused all the time. You aren't supposed to be quiet, go inside, listen to your own thoughts. You certainly should never daydream because that's an absolute waste of time. We need to be externally focused, making things, producing so we can sell and make money off of you. And money is the greatest thing. And let me explain to you why. And I think it couples in also with our deep desire. There's over 15,000 recognized religions on this realm that most of them are based in a personality worship. Like we want to worship a person, and that's very strong in the culture. So it's very easy then to transfer our worship of a personality of Buddha, Jesus, Shiva, whatever, to celebrity, to athlete, to,
fill in the blank.
Yeah. Rich guy. Who's that NFT guy with the wine? Oh God.
Oh, Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah. Gary V. You know what I mean? So like everybody looks at that, David Goggins, who I love his book. I love what he stands for. I get it.
Right.
And though you look at, you're like, this guy's been divorced a million times, can't stay married to save his life. Sure. He's not raising his children, like he also lives in a suffering of such addiction to having to do, and put himself through such misery at times. But again, that's his system. And I think these extremes are important that people can model after. But people are looking at that thinking, if I'm not doing that, I'm a loser.
Yeah, 100%.
And, so there's lots of reasons it happens, but it's been really interesting. I think it comes a lot into personality worship and then the love of money that we've been tricked into thinking that's all that you really are.
Yeah. And I mean, to me, it's a hard thing because we've turned it into these binary scenarios where it's either or rather than some like degrees discussion. And to your point, it's like the Goggins thing is great. I agree with you. I like the book and I think there's merit to it, but it's not a lifestyle. It's a skill to apply appropriately in life. And it seems like we've lost the skill to discern when to use these different aspects of our life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think some of the area where for me in practice, I specialize in brain optimization coupled with how that relates to mental health. To me, mental health is just brain health. And if you get the brain okay, the mental health things go away. I don't ascribe to this philosophy of psychiatry that you have this thing for life. This is just how you are, and you need to take these pills forever. That's bullshit. So they don't understand the brain, believe it or not. They don't understand inflammation. They don't understand that there's several subtypes of something. They just look at depression the same, anxiety the same, autism the same. They don't really get it. Throw some stuff on it, kind of neutralize, zombify a person so they're controllable and compliant. That's really what we care about. And that's it. Well, that's not how it works. But in the special needs community, therefore, that I have a lot of that ADHD, sensory integration, autism, bipolar, schizophrenia, all these other things. I see a lot of parents bringing in these children, whether these children are 3 years old or sometimes 30 years old, because they're still living at home and need a lot of support. I watched over time, all these mothers, usually the dads seem to be able to find a little bit more balance, believe it or not. The mothers, because we are so caring and so nurturing, and we think we're just supposed to, it is our natural way, right, to nurture and care for. Now we have a chronically sick child, and she's never stopping. She just goes and goes and goes. That job is 24/7, 365. There is no break for her, and that's the way she feels about it. So when I was seeing all these moms really burnt out, exhausted, but their job doesn't end. They don't get 2 weeks paid vacation. They get nothing. 100%. Their kid still is going to have seizures no matter what. And at 3 a.m, she might have to pop up and go to the hospital. Right. So that level of nervous system arousal, constant alertness, I was seeing in them, and how much coaching I was having to do with, hang on, mom, I get he's got a lot of anxiety. I get we have a lot of OCD. I get he's stimming a lot, and now his behavior is changing. That autism isn't going away right this minute. But let's talk about you, because you don't look so good. Like, you're on 4 medications. You're not sleeping at night. And when's the last time you had a massage? And they'll just go, right. Oh, well. Or they'll say, I get one a year on Mother's Day. I said, what? I'm like, you're spending 10 grand a month on therapies for this kid. And, your husband, I have really amazing families, amazing husbands that are like, baby, do whatever you got to do. They're dying for their wives to go get a pedicure or a massage or take a break so she can come back and be the wife again, the best friend he used to have. So when I started seeing that so much, I was like, ooh, hang on. And I started having to say, I get it, but can I actually take care of you? Can we choose you right now? And when I would get that to happen, it didn't happen all the time. I'm like, no, you're more important actually, because your anxiety, your overwhelm is what's spilling over here anyway. The kid is highly empathic, absorbing, the old saying, if mama ain't happy, right, ain't nobody in the house happy, right? And women are just not thinking they're selfish if they take time. No. So it really started from that, watching and getting them to come and do neurofeedback, letting me teach them how to meditate, how to heal their guts, how to stop using coffee or sugar or brownies to stimulate themselves, instead of like, why don't you lie down? Like, you can just do that. Right. Actually talking with your friends is important. You need that. And suddenly, their irritability would go down, their sleep would get better, they'd lose a little bit of weight, and they'd go, it's so crazy, Dr. Rimka, because he's just so much better. The son, the behavior's just like, right, because he can feel you're like this inside all the time. And all that shaking that you're doing and white knuckling it, trying to get through your day and resorting to wine and chocolate at night, every single night, that's not helping anybody. So when I was seeing it there and saying it over and over and over again, eventually I had to self-reflect on myself. I'm like, oh God, this looks like me too. I'm what I see in you, I see in me. And I need to address this with myself and see how much am I overdoing. And I took a big step back in practice, reduced hours, reduced patient load, so I could take care of my own son and myself. And it was a big deal to have that moment of, I think I'll hire housekeepers. I mean, I was struggling a year with feeling guilty, and everyone looked like, I'm like, so I could do what I do best. And a lot of that is time for me, because rest is not just sleep.
Right.
It's fundamental. I work a lot with that, but I also call it active rest. So there's lots of different ways to do rest. And I go over this in my a 90-day course for women called 3R, Rest, Renew, Restore. And I spend a lot on teaching them how to rest, because believe it or not, a lot of 45-year-old women have no idea how to do it. So
yeah, I cannot confirm or deny. I see that in my own life. But yeah, so what's the bridge for that to help equip women to get off that mom guilt? Because what you're explaining, I've seen, and it's like, how do you have the two? Because one, the mom's own, like you said, the vibration is impacting the other individual, but also even the expectation. And the example you gave is someone with certain ADHDs or challenges that are more extreme, but like, that's also to be expected, so to speak, like that certain aspects of
stress. What do you mean? What is to be expected?
Well, like, what's a normal expectation to have on another individual who may have certain challenges, like you're mentioning, right? Like whether it's ADD or other on the spectrum, potentially, is like trying to fix something that isn't necessarily abnormal. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm asking the question.
I do and I don't. I do believe that neurological damage is abnormal. So I'm not a person that normalizes brain damage. I'm not going to, I understand there's two camps going on in the world of like, this is just a neurotype. Like, no, the majority of people come into me with a very strong injury story. There's a switch. That's not normal. Their children were not born this way. There was a radical change. Speech was lost. Heads banging your head against a wall and smearing your poop on it. I will never agree that is normal. Right. And I will do everything I can to agree. That child to me is in distress. Children that can't, that are getting in trouble at school constantly because they can never have any impulse control to not blurt things out. They take things, they touch kids. I don't think that's normal.
Right.
And because and their self-identity gets tanked very quickly. Then they think they're a bad child.
The labels.
Yeah. Right. It gets really bad. So, I hear what you're saying, and I do know I cross the line with a lot of people around that. I'm not a fan of normalizing damage, toxicity, and poison.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't mean to imply it's normalized, but in the sense of like, okay, this is the current state, this is the present state.
Yeah.
Right. And then how do we
most of my parents, that? I think their expectations are reasonable most of the time. I mean, they've been going to a lot of therapy in this. It's really more dealing with the stress of like, you got 3 kids and one, it takes you an hour to help that child brush their teeth and get dressed in the morning. The other ones, you guys they're sufficient.
Yeah.
So the amount of time it takes for that mom to get ready, breakfast, the supplements, and they go to school or whatever is extraordinary.
Right.
And it's always the one child and she's repeating herself 10, 15 times. There's a lot of that goes into it. And then that, they're fighting with the other kids. We often have the siblings that are afraid of this child because they'll just come up to them and punch them in the face. I mean, they're so in so much distress and can't verbalize well, can't communicate it. And it's just coming from inflammation, often at radical extremes in the neurotransmitters. They are not bad at children at all, but they are trapped in a body that is hurting and it's inflaming. They're on fire. And, adults on fire do stupid things.
Right. Yeah.
Imagine being 5, 8. You don't have the self-regulation tools. You're learning all of this, right? There's no prefrontal cortex developed. 19-year-old neurotypical guys do stupid things all the time. That same guy at 30 is like, oh, I can't believe I did that stuff.
I know. 100%.
Right? Because the brain isn't online fully, right?
Right.
You don't have the same executive function. So that's what I'm talking about. It is a constant chronic exhaustion of that mother, right? Yeah. I think for me, the way I've been able to do it is I think that women just need permission. I think part of my job is just, oh, Dr. Rimka said, and suddenly she just like, I physically watch the whole body relax. They often cry like relief. Like they know, they've been telling themselves this. Their inner voice knows this. They just didn't, I just needed to say it. Like, and I'm telling you, if I ever have a husband or a wife on board, they are always dead. Oh, please, please. I've been begging her to take care of herself, right? It's usually that. I do have some men that I have to do that with, but most, again, I deal with a lot of special needs people. Okay. Most men I see, I don't have to really go into teach them how to rest. Men are different. I need to build their testosterone, their energy. I need them to lift weights. Now I work on sleep with them tremendously, and I work on meditation, right? And I work on balancing their brains if we're unstable, but it's typically women that have to, like, I get the workaholics like you, the burnout, but it's kind of different how you work these two things. The hormones are really playing a different story here. So
catalysts are different.
Yeah. I mean, for women so far, a lot of it is, so I'm prescribing you in this appointment to go get a massage. That is your homework. I will check on you next time to see if you did it.
Right.
Like, don't come to me and say you didn't do it. So they're like, okay, yes, like, ma'am. Seriously? Yeah. Because I use reward systems in all of the therapies I do with children. So we do tracking and reward systems. You can't ask a child to come and do 3 months of a brain reorganization therapy 2-3 times a week, or do it 5 days a week at home and not have daily, weekly, monthly, and program rewards. And those are like activities and prizes. And we talk about this. So I set that up with the family. I'm like, this is important. This is hard work. You work for pay, you work for bonuses. So do they. So that's what we're doing. And we got to set it up. And we do that. The same thing goes for adults. I'm like, so what are you doing for yourself when we get to this point? What are you going to do? And again, for these women, usually I want an active rest activity, and massages, pedicures, things that they like, that are like, not go to the gym. I'm like, I'm usually like, no, we're going to I usually say, let's stop waking up at 5. We're not working out for a month. They're like, what? I'm like, just trust me on this. I'm like, we're going to work on one thing called sleep. And you will lose weight because you're burnt out, right?
Yeah, because I mean, as much as exercise is great, if you're doing it, you have to look at the holistic, I would think, on the load that you have in your life. And it's a stressor, and misapplied, I guess it could really set you off in the wrong direction.
Yeah. There's a yin and a yang to everything, the female masculine. And so there are some exercises are very masculine, and I like those. I love them. Don't get me wrong. And some are very feminine, and we need both, right? And in different times of your life, we have to maybe do 6 months of, we're going very slow, easy, feminine restorative movement, and then we built like, okay, now you're ready to throw some weight around, and you're going to get that feeling like there it is. I got hormones better. The organs are doing better. Now you ready to go throw some weight around, mama? They're like, yeah, actually good. Then we do that. And so, and maybe their husbands, they need a little bit of Qigong, a little restorative yoga. Like he's a little bit too much. I'm like, okay, let's bring a little bit of this breath work and Qigong movements, 15 minutes every morning into your life to slow you down and have the balance. But people definitely at different times need different interventions, and we just kind of layer it.
Yeah. So how do you help equip your clients with the skill of kind of self-assessment? Because we're so dysregulated based on your clientele and what you're saying, and even my own personal experiences, like you know what to do sometimes, but you just choose not to do it. But how do we get that self-awareness within our body to know, okay, and this is the time where I need to pull on this lever?
Yeah. I use a lot of technology. I hook them up to a lot of devices and give them biofeedback and let them see their nervous system in real time so they can regulate it in real time.
Okay.
So there's no guessing.
Yeah.
They can learn what their breathing is doing. They can see that they're stressed. They can look at heart rate variability. They can see EEG brain waves. They can see skin temperature. And I'm like, you're going to control this right now. Let's do it. So we do a lot of that. Okay. They learn to control it. I use a lot of devices. I mean, they're everywhere, all over, little machines constantly that can bypass their nervous system very quickly. So put this thing on for 10 minutes and just rest. Audiovisual entrainment, binaural beats, DC current, transcranial direct stimulation. So I'm using lots of electromagnetic and light devices that do it for them. So often it's like, I'm just going to drive like training wheels, like you're in a hospital and the physical therapist is just coming in and moving you. Sometimes that's where you're at. Like
Right.
then you get to a point, okay, we're getting out of bed and you're going to have to learn to walk with that new prosthetic or with a broken leg. Like, let's get up and do it. That's horrible. And it's hard.
Sure.
That's what all the biofeedback is. So I'm hooking them up as they're trying to learn to do things to control their nervous system. A tremendous amount of that is vagus nerve stimulation, vagal stimulation things that leverage polyvagal theory. But neurofeedback would be the centerpiece, working directly with brain waves and learning to control your mental state at will is a cornerstone of what I do.
So can you expand on the importance of the vagal nerve and influencers that can kind of drain on that?
Woo, so many. Okay, so it's a cranial nerve.
Pick a couple.
So many. So it's a nerve that comes out of your brain. We have a certain amount of cranial nerve, so it comes out of your skull. But this one is stands for like the wanderer. That's what the Latin word means. So it wanders outside, comes across, it goes into your ears a little bit, comes into the jaw, goes all into the throat, comes down and touches all the organs with a tremendous amount of digestive intestinal innervation. So there's a two-way street between everything that's happening in these organs to the brain, as well as that brain vagus there. So they are constantly talking. So we call it the gut-brain axis.
Right.
That's what's going on. These two are like, wah, to give signals. So you eat something poisonous, there's a very quick signal from that gut to the brain. Danger, danger, get ready. So it's going to try everything it can do to deal with it here. But, you may have to get the brain ready to fight with the toxin that's coming in as well. Okay. So, and it means, hey, you might need to lay down, whatever. We're going to vomit. We're going to diarrhea. Something's about to happen. Not good. Okay. To just give you an idea, right? But this is why people get a queasy stomach when they're scared to, athletic or speak on stage or fly in a plane or something like that. So your body will talk to you with these signals as well. And people have been taught to not pay attention to what the body is telling them. They just, it's just that, no. Like, let's listen to that and let's work on it. That's what mindfulness, that whole concept is dealing with body awareness. And then you can control and change that. So the vagus nerve is part of, we've arbitrarily moved the nervous system into like these two halves, let's say, or we separate it in many ways.
Parasympathetic.
Yeah, central nervous system, parasympathetic, peripheral, then sympathetic, parasympathetic. So sympathetic, parasympathetic is probably the most important for healing, let's say. Sympathetic is supposed to be very short-lived, fight or flight freeze. It's supposed to be life or death situations. You either get away or you die. That's it. Okay. So it creates extraordinary physiological changes, very strong, very hard, blood, vessel constriction, pupil dilation, things where a lion or a person is trying to kill you. Right. You have reflexive responses. Your brain, your cortex drops out. You are not thinking and solving problems at this point. It is very reflexive, primal, intuitive behavior that happens. Yeah. And you can get super fast and super strong and super all kinds of things.
Kind of the stories of people like lifting cars up. And
absolutely. That's what kicks in. That it's a massive shift. It's very, very potent. It's also why a scared schizophrenic is one of the most dangerous individuals you will ever encounter in life. Like, physically. So I've seen 70-year-old ladies take 3 men down. Like, you're like, wow. Right. So don't ever underestimate a homeless person, honestly, because about 40% of them are schizophrenics. That being said, okay. So that when you're fight or flight, you are not doing any healing. So parasympathetic is rest and digest and restore. You should be parasympathetic dominant all the time, typically. Probably 100% of your days should be that way, right? Okay. We typically say about 90% of you, but I mean, even out in the wild, it's not like every day you're encountering a dangerous situation. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
it's like especially not a lion women, around every corner or something.
Yeah. Especially for women who are around the fire and the hearth and taking care of the babies. You got 70, 80 women. There's not danger there. The guys who are out come across it a little bit more, right? So we really aren't designed to be having these constant surges of life or death stress. Unfortunately, the nervous system doesn't know the difference between the lion or the intruder and can't pay the mortgage, traffic, the child stimming, banging its head, no one listening to you, loneliness.
Yeah.
lack of touch, lack of sunlight, so those stressors, we end up having this sympathetic thing going on for hours and hours a day
Chronic.
instead of a few minutes, right? That's not what it was built for. And the nervous system cannot do both. If it's in fight or flight, this is being shut off. So your digestion is compromised. Everything, nothing is working as well. You can't go clean up cancer cells. You can't deal with your insulin resistance. You can't lose weight. Nothing's happening there, right?
Question. So if somebody's having like chronic stomach issues, no matter what they eat, like at first it may seem like, oh, maybe I have an allergy or sensitivity, but if they're they eat food and it's bothering them, there's probably a
very well could
balance.
Be, it's often just underlying anxiety vagal problems, right? So if they're like a brain that's on fire, like mold, let's say, can do this. So let's say we've Lyme or mold or something like that, that's causing massive brain inflammation, even a concussion. We have a lot of active inflammation. You'll see a brain lit up with a lot of high beta waves, very red on an EEG, QEEG. That is sending a constant danger alert to all the intestine, to everything. And so then we're going to have low stomach acid, we're going to have low peristalsis, we're going to have low bile, we'll have low pancreatic enzymes. So they just can't do it well. Mm-hmm. So, if you test and everything, like nothing's there, we've done this, we've done that, it's not working. What's been done with their nervous system? So when you activate the vagus nerve, that thing, it's the most dominant parasympathetic nerve we have. It goes all over. You can control it by doing things to the gut. Healing the gut often helps people get rid of anxiety. That's why.
Okay.
You can deal with the brain, get rid of the anxiety there. It will then stop the danger signal. That'll heal the gut, right? So you get either way, or sometimes you got to do both. Okay. Or you can learn vagal nerve like activation exercises. So that's things with the ears, that's things with the throat, because the way the nerves, and with the lungs. I can't control my stomach contracting right now, right? But I can control my vocal cords. I can control my ears. I can do things, touch them, manipulate them, and I can control my lungs via my breathing. So by doing that, I can override the fight or flight by turning that cranial nerve on. I turn it on mechanically, basically, with a few minutes of exercise. And the longer someone does that, the better it is. I mean, we can go all the way to vagal implants are installed in people. So you can surgically put.
Really?
I've had many patients. Oh, yeah. They do it a lot with seizure disorders. So lots of kids on the spectrum or seizure disorders will have a small implant put in, and it's causing electrical stimulation to the vagus nerve coming down, and it helps lower their anxiety, helps them self-regulate.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. So I've heard of an external, actually have one, Apollo Neuro.
Mm-hmm. There's many devices that you can find wrist or other places. Yeah.
And then, so breath work can do that. And I thought I read somewhere, saw something where I think humming or some kind of.
The throat. So it's the throat. So whatever you do, singing, so laughter is an outrageous vagal exercise. So you need to be laughing more. You should be, believe it, like laughter is medicine. Right?
That's awesome.
Getting together with your friends, active rest, telling jokes, laughing, having a great time, that heals cancer. Like that's what people are not doing. That's activating your vagus nerve. Singing, humming, chanting. That's why I prefer meditations that are vocal, because it really helps me a lot. I like it. These are like some of my malas, and I chant. And I do that. It's a vagal activity, and it drops me even deeper into meditation. Gargling. See, mind you, all these are free so far that I've said.
Yeah, right. Seriously.
Okay? Everything's free. You can do this. And the trick is to keep, so like say you go fight or flight over here, right? And you can, I'm going to hum for 5 minutes, and then it brings you back. Okay. You do your thing, and then you go over here again. Oh, hum. So if you kind of set your day up every hour on the hour, you're going to do 10 minutes of something. You get up from your computer, go outside, you can do some breathing, vagal breathing, like box breathing. You can gargle 1 minute, you take warm water. I mean, everybody remembers how to gargle, right? I mean, and you really, really strong. Most people, their muscles are so weak, they can't even go 1 full minute, really hard. So you're trying to push it. Just humming, try incorporating humming throughout the day. So it's one of those things with parents, they're always trying, and teachers, they're constantly trying to stop children from humming and singing and whistling, and even this, I'm going to exaggerate, but we've all seen this.
Yeah.
Mom, I just don't want to do it. That child right there is trying to calm themselves down. They intuitively know to stimulate their vagus nerve by sighing.
And I'll tell you,
do that 10 times an hour. So in that 10 minutes, there's so many things you can do. It resets you from fight or flight, from being pissed at your boss, from being frustrated with the spreadsheet, from being mad about your stocks or your NFT or your Bitcoin or whatever, right? So, and it brings you back. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm more stable. You will think better. You'll perform better. Your moods will be better. And you have to keep doing it constantly throughout the day, though, to teach your body and brain, this is normal. Boom. No, this is normal. No, just like you redirect a puppy, stop peeing there, go pee a cat, pee here, pee there, pee poop there, right? You're doing it to your nervous system over. It takes consistency for these things, especially anything, the free ones or the technology. We have to do things over and over again because what you practice grows. You will grow that nervous system to be calm, or you will grow it to be stressed out. Because I mean, over and over again.
Your state you're in, it took a while to get there, although it doesn't always seem like it, but getting out of it also,
many times you are born like this. I mean, you can get all this in utero. If your mother, I asked all my, if you came to me as a patient, I'm going to want you to talk to your mother. She's like, well, can you tell me about the pregnancy? Well, really? Did she want to get pregnant? What was it like for her? Was she sick? With all of that matters, because everything she felt, your nervous system was built upon her nervous system. So I think that the idea, like, we really want healthy children and we want to go after this mental health problem we're seeing, people better start taking care of mothers. They better start taking care of pregnant women, because women who are terrified, not taken care of, in scarcity, don't know what to do, that child is going to come out that way. Right?
So, wow. I hadn't thought about the whole pregnancy term. Like, I have to a degree, in the sense of like traumatic pregnancies, as in like the birthing piece.
Yeah, no, it happens all during it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can a traumatic birth experience influence, then, I would presume?
Oh yeah. So absolutely. I mean, the baby's feeling everything that the mother is feeling, and they're really like one being until they're roughly 6-7 years old. That child, whatever that mother feels, that baby feels. They don't really know they're different yet. Like, they've been one. Right. They are one being, and there's no separation in what goes on there. And this is something that I think people are not getting. And again, if you really want to help the planet, you need to be helping pregnant women. There should be no fear or scarcity in this, what's going on. And, that's a very tough time for a lot of women. Actually. Yeah. And, it does get ignored. So I always want to know about that. I want to know the implications. How is this brain hardwired? How is this system developed? I mean, the white blood cell, your body remembers all of this stuff. So then they come into the house, of course, then you get all those scripts imprinted from the family. But yeah, the same thing. I mean, it could be the neurology gets locked in. Now, many times we can heal out of things. Lifestyle interventions can cause radical changes. Sure. Just like you can have a completely stable, neutral brain. You can have a traumatic event, physical or emotional, and boom, now we have a completely different pattern that's going on here as a way of compensating and protecting the brain. Same thing can happen. We born a certain way, and then there can be interventions and situations, and that brain will be completely rewired and will become typical or stable, strong, feel safe again. But how children come out with how they feel about themselves. Is the world safe or not safe? Are men good or not good? Is my mom, women, myself, the world? That makes a big difference. So I always ask stories about people's first memory and all kinds of stuff. And all these things, you can get a really good clue. What was the pregnancy like? What's their first memory? Tell me about it. Tell me about all these things. And then I can get a good picture of what happened before and see if that correlates with the brain images or in the testing I'm seeing, and like how to go about this for that person.
Wow. That's really fascinating. I mean, we are complex. I mean, the complexity of just, I mean, that's not a negative. It's just taking into account the things that do influence our life. And I think,
people want to be stuck on food or diet all the time. And I'm like, and I'm known for that. I think you even described me like, oh, nutrition. I'm like, oh God, actually nutrition is so boring because but it's a thing we have to talk about because most people eat every day.
Yeah.
Like, I get you got to do it a lot. So I get it's important, but they want to keep talking about that. And I'll give you an example. A patient can't lose 100 pounds. Okay. A woman. I have to tell you, this is a weird one that I'm still trying to figure out. There's a certain subclass of patients I see, and I've talked with many therapists, and they didn't put it together because they don't talk about food the way I do. And I've talked with many, and I'm trying to be like, God, there seems to be like a point. I've seen it mostly in women. If there was severe abuse before about age 12, physical or sexual, usually it's sexual, but this one story I'll tell you was a very physical one. Before 12, that woman, and they have a weight problem then later, it's almost like their body, that trauma is really locked in neurology. I call it prisoner of your neurology. And I do a whole series on my courses about teaching about what really goes on. And I show the brain maps of what this looks like and what their markers look like. It's like she could be 100 or 200 pounds overweight, perfect liver, perfect cholesterol, not insulin resistant. Insulin is fine. Leptin levels normal, not diabetic. I've seen them not eat for 10 days and barely lose any weight. It's like they can lose 50 pounds. It's like they defy the laws of physiology. Like the trauma itself has done something because that woman is like, I want to be invisible. I do not want any attention. My father was raping me since I was 6. The system is like, I do not want anybody coming at me. I want to disappear. And oddly enough, obesity is one of those ways
that the body just
has said, I want to disappear. It's a shield. It's a protector. There's your armor, right? Keep away from me. I'm going to put a lot of distance between me and you. So I had one patient going through this and going through. It took about a year before finally the story came out. Sometimes, it takes a while to tell me things. It's okay. Shaken baby syndrome. She was shaken so bad, 112 bones, I believe, or something like that were broke. Oh yeah. Near dead. Father shook her.
Wow.
Dad hospitalized, really should have been dead. That's a level of severe. This is like a year old or 10 months. I don't know. Imagine that trauma. She doesn't remember a thing about it. She just knows this happened to her. It's part of her medical history.
Right.
And never makes the connection of how that's impacting her autoimmune diagnoses and her obesity today. I guarantee you it is. Wow. So I'm like, oh, we have a whole nother layer of why are we still talking about what you're eating? Because it's perfect. I don't know what else to do on this,
So then what's the path to progress? Not that totally, do an appointment here, but on that person, but like, what's the path to progress when it's something like that?
There's many paths. So one is there's many ways to access the nervous system and deal with healing. And so you really have to see what that person wants, what they like, what they can do. There are many people I've seen do almost everything and it's still not working. And I'm like, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to figure out what is that key? What is the door? What is the lock? And when I talk to therapists, none of us have this answer yet. I'm like, you see this pattern? Like, yeah, I do see that pattern. You're right. I'm like, what are we missing? So I think it needs to be approached in many ways. I need to go after the body. We need absolute physical therapies. There's lots of different release techniques. Mm-hmm. Some are hands-on, some are that involve the fascia. That memories are stored in there that involve tremor, shaking, different primal ways of releasing animals. There's a whole therapy called TRE, trauma release exercises that's been developed. And it's a really, really cool one. The psychologist developed looking at how all animals shake things off. So if the gazelle gets away from the lion, and they get away all the time, right? You will watch this instinctual shaking that goes on. And once they do that, they shake off that. So they don't hold the trauma. Now it's gone. So they don't live traumatized. They don't get PTSD. Okay. We don't do that. We control. We're like,
right. Or we may say that's not a good response. I need to control myself. Like,
absolutely.
If they are
socially
shaking,
inappropriate or whatever, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people aren't doing these primal shaking. So that's a whole series of exercises. People can go to their website. I'm not Trey certified. I'm kind of like, that might be the next thing I add to my tool belt, because I'm like, it's really awesome. Cold plunging, right? So cold plunging releases trauma. So anytime you put yourself in a stress, if I can get you to feel like you're about to die and we teach you to regulate yourself, you'll start discharging those memories. So there's physical stuff like that. We can address the body. There's many techniques. Yeah. Neurofeedback is extraordinary for what we call it deep states training. It's an alpha theta hypnagogic state. I take you very deep into an altered state that you normally only get 2 to 3 minutes a night in, and we hold you there 30 minutes or longer. You're going into your unconscious, and you are in control though, and you will decide which traumas and things to heal and deal with. That takes a lot of sessions and a lot of time. It's our peak performance training. It's extraordinary trauma healing, addiction healing, alcoholism. That's my go-to for that. Hypnosis is another avenue. Like there's many ways to go about it. I don't think talk therapy is as effective for this, honestly, because often talking about the trauma is just traumatizing.
Reliving.
And that's, people are just, why do so many women not report a rape? Because they don't want to tell that story 100 times. Like, I'd rather it's gone. I don't want to be, I'm done, right? It's still in her, but sometimes the talking about it over and over, going and getting the exam after the rape is traumatic. I mean, it's just trauma upon trauma upon trauma. So we handle trauma very badly in our culture, and we traumatize the trauma. You know what I mean? It's tough. So many ways to do it, and just try to keep working on it. And it's really an onion. Again, something that happened in utero, at birth, very, very young. The younger this is, and especially when it's something like a family member, when it's your mother or father, that level of psychic damage on a child. I mean, adoption creates psychic damage. It creates a split. Those children are always going to have adults will have a certain split in them. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I mean, those ought to be the most trusted source. Right. And if our innate desire is for security, and that's broken like that, just thinking out loud, that has to be a major fracture.
Yeah. And it's confusing because children don't want to be mad at the mom or dad. I mean, people can put cigarettes out on their children and their kids are still going to say, I love you. People can be outrageously abusive to their children, and the children still love mommy and daddy. It's something. It's like a dog. You beat a dog and that dog's still going to come. I mean, look at how loyal a dog is to humans. Children are like that. So they feel guilty for even being mad for being raped.
And apologizing for their responses or whatever. Yeah. Gosh. A
little heavier than you thought, maybe. This is the kind of stuff I see all day. So I'm sorry if it's.
No, I mean, it is what it is, and something that has to be addressed. And I think, kind of to an earlier comment, that I think as a society, pre-COVID, we were dealing with a lot of this stuff. I think COVID has compounded that exponentially to the point of, like, I was in a conversation yesterday where I think people are just most people are now at that high vibration level, I'll call it, of sensitivity. And it's just like, you have to navigate that. You've seen that with youth mental health crisis and things of that nature, just trying to navigate those things. And then you have the systemic things like technology. As much as it's great, there's some unintended consequence to some of these things of constantly doing this habitually, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Well, two parts of that. I'll talk about the technology first. I mean, in general, that's always, it's creating a stress response. So we're have a neurotransmitter response where we're overloading systems and short-circuiting those networks. So then you become kind of like insulin resistant, how like when you have too much blood sugar, then it kills the sugar receptors, the insulin receptors. Same thing, you got too much dopamine, it kills the dopamine receptors. So now you can't get it in, so now you need it more, and I need it more. So that's how things become so addictive, that create those explosive cocaine, alcohol, TikTok, doesn't matter, right? Plus every screen, because of the flash rate, the flicker rate of these lights on all of it, it's just the flicker alone causes the brain to go into fight or flight. because it's like, the primal response is seeing a flicker through the leaves.
Yeah.
That flashing light is a predator of some sort.
That's a red flag, right?
So that happens with every single screen we're watching.
TVs.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
Those old TVs did it less. So all this LED, the fancier we get, the worse it is. So it causes the brain to shut down. It must veg out because it must go catatonic because you're terrifying it. So we've slowed everything down. So a lot of people eat in front of these things. So now we have lower digestion.
Too. You're just
and so you're not going to digest as well. You're going to eat more. You're not going to get nutrients. I mean, it's a really vicious cycle. And then the social media aspect is a whole other level of trauma, and because isolation and being pushed out from the group is one of the worst things for a human. We're a pack animal. And if you can't be in the social order and you get thrown out, you're most likely going to die. Right.
Wow.
So the bullying, the social media, that I'm not pretty enough, the fakeness of the filters and the photoshopping and all that. I mean, there's entire large groups on how to be an anorexic, how to do binge purging correctly. Oh yeah. They are like massive groups teaching how to do this right so you can be thin. There's a dermatologist out there. She's got a massive following. She is so anorexic and the eating disorder is so obvious. And it's like a cult following because young girls want to look like they want to,
right. Emulate.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a whole other thing. And it causes a lot of issues. So these kids who are allowed social media accounts, and if there's one bad comment in the whole school, boom, we have this virtual isolation that just happens. So psychologically, as far as that child is concerned, they're about to get pushed out of the pack.
Yeah.
That's not okay because the wolves are going to eat you. If you can't figure out social order with humans, you're not going to do well. You won't make it. Okay. So that's like, it's a whole other level. Now, what's gone on in the last few years, and that is mass coordinated psychological trauma.
Yeah.
People are traumatized.
Scale. Yeah.
It's like, so you can barely escape it. I mean, short of your kids were at home, homeschool, you have no media anywhere and no one is allowed to talk to it, then you could have probably sheltered them.
Yeah.
Once those kids are out of that house, it's like, oh man, what they hear today? You know what I mean? Yeah. Even if you're, it's tough. And then some, parents, they're just projecting it all on they became traumatized. They thought they had to traumatize. There are instances of the level of trauma here, right? I'm going to assume this woman who was arrested in Texas, it was normal before. She's like a normal mom. She got arrested because she had the 13-year-old, I think, in the trunk of the car for COVID testing.
Oh, yeah. I heard that.
That she pulled up and was like, well, no, she's in the car because she's sick and I don't want her in the car. You were like, what?
Do what now?
You put your who in the where? for a cult?
Yeah.
And they arrested her. I mean, the kid could have died, but That's how traumatized a human being became, that they are doing psychotic behavior.
And they thought it was okay to do.
They thought it was okay. They weren't even hiding. She wasn't even hiding it. She's thinking, well, I didn't know, oh my God, well, she's back there. I get her. I don't want to be tested. And there are 14 masks or whatever. That's sad.
I know.
I'm not angry at that woman. I'm heartbroken for her. So what's going to happen with that child? What's going to happen with this mother? Like, what are they going to actually get the help they need? I doubt it. What's going to happen 6 months or a year from now?
Yeah.
She can become an agoraphobe and never leave her house. And you know what I mean? Like what's going to happen to that child? The kids I'm seeing right now, they're so anxious and depressed, and it's just loneliness.
Yeah. I
haven't seen my friends in 2 years. I'm so sad. I mean, that's what they say. I'm like, and so I'm doing neurofeedback on them, but I'm like, I can't neurofeedback children. I can't make children come to them. And what they need is their pack. They need their laugh. They need hugs. They need, they need yeah.
It's so concerning. I mean, at scale that I don't like. How do you equip the people then? Like if they're not in that state or to navigate these waters?
Well, I don't fully know for everybody, but I do know that people, by the time somebody comes into an office like mine, I know a lot of things are in place, right? I have shelter, I have food, I have your basic life needs are met. They typically have financial security of some sort. They're paying cash for services, right? I don't pretend to think my therapies or my lab testing or my brain is so good that I could go pick 10 guys off the street, homeless, and take care of all their mental health problems. I don't think I could do it, because you have to have all of this. You have to have community, you have to have family, you have to have the support and people believing and envisioning that you can get better on your side. You need a team, not to be worried about where you're going to sleep or all that kind of stuff. So some of these people, I don't know what's going to happen with them. I don't know how to help her. All I can say is, I hope she'll go find somebody like me and try to get help. And then from there, we have to start breaking up the irrational panic. And the best way probably is to just come in neurologically and get rid of that hijack, that fight or flight hijack that's happened. Because when you're hijacked, you can't think. They're no longer able to have logical, rational thinking. And I understand that. So there's no point in talking to them. It's like trying to have a reasonable conversation with someone drunk.
Right.
Don't do that. Walk away. Okay, you're fine. Yeah, right. And walk away, because it's not worth it. It's nothing that's going to productive that will happen. So that's my best suggestion would be, we've got to physically shift them and give them that peace and go, okay, now I've got you in that state. You're sober, basically, neurologically. Now let's go through. And that's when something like a cognitive behavioral therapy or somebody that can help point out irrational thinking and how that makes no sense. And, but you can't really do that until we've turned that hijacked fight or flight, panicked reptilian lizard war kind of I'm against you and don't come near me brain off.
Yeah. I think the only way to do that is cancel all cable outlets, but
I haven't had a TV in like 30 years. So when I tell them like, what, I'm like, no, I don't watch. I don't know anything. I'd work really hard to avoid that. A thing happened recently, past couple of days, and I don't know really. People say, I said, no, I don't. And then like, I always would go through, well, do I need to look into it to post something? Should I say something? And sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to poison myself with the toxicity of what I know is a lot of lie, manipulations, and fear porn.
Yeah.
That at this point, what am I going to do about it? What can I can't do anything about that. I can only deal with the people that are in front of me and do the best I can to educate. And a bigger issue like guns and shooting and schools and that's what I'm talking about. Like,
yeah,
that's not exactly at this point my place to be talking about. And I don't trust anything I see on the fake box anyway. At this point, because of the massive manipulation and lies, you can easily entrain people, their brains to believe something just through repetition. I said, what you practice grows. So one of my mentors,
enough times it becomes true.
It is, or at least you think, well, isn't that what it is? So it's reasonable. For some reason I'm thinking that, because it just gets implanted, and you think, well, yeah, I think you see a commercial enough and you think, oh yeah, Mercedes, that's the car to buy, right? Because you saw the commercial 8,000 times. And
then it gets dropped into the everyday conversation.
Right.
But, well, Dr. Stephanie, there's so many things covered here. We could probably talk for another 2 hours, but I want to thank you for what you're doing, your voice, your practice, and taking a holistic approach. We didn't even get into that, and the limitations of certain medical angles of isolating things and not looking at the totality. But I'm sure folks can figure that out by going to your website and checking and following you. But I'd like to follow or close things out with a few personal questions, nothing too deep, but what are you reading right now?
Oh, so 6 or 7 books. But the one is, I don't remember the name, but it's actually by a psychiatrist where he channeled Thoth. So it's a weird, I don't remember his name, but I'll tell you the book I just finished, which I loved because I can remember the name of it. I think it's called The Other Half of Church, or it's neuro theosophy or something. So it's neurology and religion The other half of church, I believe it's called. It's an outstanding book. It's two authors. It's really, really, really good. So if anybody is into Christianity in any way, shape, or form, they'll easily resonate with this, but it brings neurology into it and talk in terms of gratitude. And it kind of goes into how the church, almost all the church organizations have been hijacked by the wrong thing, by narcissism and by very left brain thinking instead of right brain being. It's so good.
Interesting. That's fascinating to me. I'm going to check into that one. What are you listening to right now? Be it music or podcast?
I always I do Pandora, and so I do Sade as one of my channels. So I like a lot of that old stuff. Yacht Rock, so like the 80s stuff. Yacht Rock, it's called, yeah. And I do a lot of Raja Kumari. So she's an American Indian rapper.
Okay.
I like a lot of R&B, hip hop, rap, and so I used to do a lot of Rihanna and Drake and stuff. But like, the lyrics and what they're saying. And I'm like really having to question what I'm being programmed with. But I'm from Detroit. I was born in the 70s. I like that ghetto music. So I like a lot of like Isley Brothers. I'm listening to a lot of Isley Brothers right now, a lot of old school, Stevie Wonder.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I love that.
That's fun stuff though.
Anita Baker, I'm definitely showing my age right now, but that's okay.
I'm with you. I was talking about this on music with, growing up as a kid, my parents would always listen to the oldies like doo-wop and all that stuff. And, 9-year-old kid in a road trip to my grandparents, I'm like, this is horrible. And now I find myself like, this was awesome stuff. Like just
Anyway, clean. Yeah.
All right. So what is your nighttime routine? Do you have?
Yeah, so it definitely changes season to season. I like a lot of fires outside in my backyard, so I like that. Cool. So if I can grill, have some meat and sit by a fire, even by myself, I'll do that. But if I can have friends over, it's even better. In general, I don't do much right now. Like I'm sleeping so well. Like, so if I'm having a stressed out rough time, I've got to do a lot of things, right? I'll do like a post meditation. I'll do special lights, but in general, I don't do a whole lot. I guess my nighttime routine, it includes a lot of light management. So I have I don't like have I have no LEDs in my house. I use all incandescent. And so in the evening, when the sun goes down, my house turns red. Okay. So all the lights in the house are red. So either if I'm going to use fire or red lights, basically. So my house looks like Satan's lair from the outside. Typically, people are like, wow, what's happening there? I'm like, well, don't worry about me. Okay. So because I want my melatonin to really kick in. I kind of don't do it. I do dinner to be with my son, this and that. And then I'm like, I take a shower and go to bed. I really sleep really well right now. I sleep on a PEMF device. So probably the most like things I do is I make sure my PEMF, which is kind of like a Faraday cage around my bed. I sleep in like 5G radiation. So I guess what I do this thing where I make sure I'm protected from electromagnetic frequencies. So I wear 5G protection as my pajamas. I put a PEMF device on my bed. I just turn my thing on. I don't have to do a lot. I take tryptophan maybe 2-3 times a week, but otherwise I'm like, see ya.
Peace out.
Yeah. I don't read before I go to bed or anything anymore. My eyes are too tired. I wear contacts. And at this point, I'm usually like,
you're done.
Good night.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all. Awesome. I don't do much. I don't even wash my face half the time. I know I shouldn't say that. I don't. I'm like, it's fine.
Yeah. Interesting on the PEMF device. Is it the lambs that you use? The lambs?
I use, the Get Lambs clothing. I wear that. It's in my store. I sell it. Yeah. So I usually tell people
the hat recently.
Yeah. The hat. I usually just say, if you're going to invest in one thing, just get a big shirt, the underwear to sleep in, and just start there. And then at least while you're sleeping, you're protected. And then my PEMF, I keep it at 9.6 hertz to oscillate and heal my mitochondria while I sleep. And it just filters out. It's not a true Faraday cage, but it does filter out radio waves and noise to keep me a little bit grounded and protected while I'm sleeping.
Cool. Well,
help me recover better. That's what I.
There you go. There you
It is a rest and recovery device.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have one. I don't put it in the bed, but we have a PMF device.
Yeah, mine is designed. It goes under the mat. That's what its
Okay.
purpose is. Is you're supposed to sleep on it all night. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, thank you so much again for your time and insights and for all that you're doing, especially for the
Very
moms.
welcome. I'm happy to talk again if we, whenever you want.
Thank you. Appreciate it.